Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hit and Hustle Notre Dame versus Duke live instant reaction post-game show following Notre Dame's 21-14 victory over the 17th ranked Duke Blue Devils. Gentlemen, what just happened? What is going on?
I will say, first of all, I just want to say I was pretty, reserved in the chat. Like I wasn't firing him off like I normally would.
Mike, stop.
Not the first half.
Yeah,
Not
well,
the first half.
but I was pretty reserved. I mean, you got to give me some credit once.
I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit, Mike, because I've been in other games with you
where it's just been constant. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this was just anyway. Greg, go ahead and introduce the show, and then we'll have my. We're gonna do 10 minutes with the boss, and then I got to get on the message boards because I'm sure we're gonna have some sporting stuff happening tonight.
Mike's got to police the message board. So we'll just intro. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you if you're watching on replay. Thank you for doing that as well. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the show. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe to the show. I already said that. Hit the notification bell so you know we're going live. It wasn't looking good for Notre Dame early. It looked or during the game on offense, especially really didn't look good late. But if you want to look good and you want things to look good all the time, then hit up ESQclothing.com. They've got the world's first bamboo dress shirt, crafted from high-quality bamboo fabric. It's the softest, most comfortable shirt you'll ever put on. It's not only more sustainable than cotton, but also feels cooler, has stretch, is odor and wrinkle-resistant, and it's even machine washable. You've seen ESQ's one-piece collar bamboo shirt on Notre Dame's top players and coaches. The perfect shirt for today's business meeting or heading for a night out. Use ISD 15 and get 15% off all online items. ISD 15, 15% off all online items. All right, Mike, we've got you for a little bit. Give us your 10 minutes. Give us your your bird's eye view on it. What you think, and then we'll take it from there. What do you got for us, Mike?
I just. It was a frustrating game, and I don't understand the reasoning behind it. There were so many mental mistakes by the Irish, and I really thought that they'd play better. I really did. I actually picked them to win by a comfortable margin, and I think if you watch the beginning of the game, it was there for the taking, gentlemen. It was there. Yeah. You just have to be consistent, and I think that certainly losing Jaden Thomas, I think certainly losing Jaden Greathouse, that had a big impact on what they were doing. But I just didn't understand the game plan here, folks. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish with this. And, thank God Mitchell Evans had another amazing game, because had he not stepped up and done what he did, they would have certainly lost. I thought the offensive line played a dreadful game. I just don't think that they played well at all. And by some of the best supposed, best players did not play well as far as the offensive line goes. And, I've been saying this for a while, and Jamie and I've kind of talked about it on Power Hour a few times, and we've talked about it at a couple other situations, but I just don't like the way this game plan is, or the way they design the running game a lot of times, in that everybody is just jammed in the box. There's 9 people there, and it makes it very difficult for any running lanes to happen. So you're either going to get 0 yards, which happens way too often, or 7 or 8 yards. The problem is those 0-yard runs put you in 2nd and 10, and then you don't have a great passing attack, and certainly experienced wide receivers that can help you and bail you out in 2nd and 10. And I just, nothing outside, no screen game, no nothing in this game to kind of spread this team out. And why does Notre Dame continue to want to play in a phone booth? I just don't understand this, especially when they have the ability, they're supposedly have superior athletes. And again, I think part of the problem certainly is the wide receivers not being in this game. That I really think affected the game plan. And I think they probably felt like they'd be able to run the football pretty well. And that just was not the case. And, it's not a situation where I felt like Duke did anything amazing defensively. I just think that Notre Dame lost way too many individual battles up front. And, when you put that many people in a short area of to defend, there's just too many people. There's no running lanes. You can't get the 10, 12, 19, 20, 25 big yard chunk runs because there's just too many people there to chase down the ball carrier. I get why you're doing it at certain points in the game, and it certainly has been effective earlier in this year. There's no question about it. Yeah. But the last couple games, and we've seen teams just kind of say, you know what, we're taking that away. And as soon as they do, then Notre Dame's a very average offense, and they can't seem to figure out anything at all. And I didn't like the fact that they didn't try to get anything on the perimeter. You've got guys like Jeremiah Love and J.D. Price. By the way, two guys who've made a lot of big games or big plays in the screen game and, use their speed. I don't know. I don't understand the game plan. I understand why it was created, but I don't understand why you stick with it. Especially when it wasn't working. So those are kind of my thoughts. I think defensively, very, very good most of the time. Obviously they gave up some points that you weren't wanting, but I mean, you can only ask a defense to do so much. Your offense has to score. I mean, when they give you the ball at the 13-yard line and you go backwards, that doesn't make any sense. And I just think Notre Dame offense put the defense in jail too many times, and just they kind of had to let down. It was interesting that last drive for Notre Dame. It's that bend don't break versus what do you do here. And I love that Elko was coming after him. I think that was the right call. They were having a lot of success getting after him, but the problem sometimes is when you blitz like that, as we've seen so many times. If everybody's in man because you're in blitz, then, somebody like Sam Hartman can pick up 16 yards on the ground by himself. And so there is, the give and take back on that where, 3rd and 19 last week, everybody, wanted to kill Golden and me personally as well. But there, you see one of the factors of why teams do that, because, if you're going to blitz a bunch of people and play man coverage, they're turned around. They're not looking for the quarterback run. And in this situation with Notre Dame at 3rd and 19, there was nowhere to turn around to. So that doesn't make sense. But, so I think that Elko coached a heck of a game. I think that they were ready to play. They played to win. I think that they played very, very well. Notre Dame just made enough plays at the end to win the game. But I don't understand. I don't understand. It just shouldn't have been this hard. And then the other thing I want to ask you guys, at some point, do you have to look at another kicking, field goal kicker at this point? Because 50% is just not getting it done. I don't care how strong your leg is. When you're going to, especially if you're going to call offense like this, where every team's going to be in the game, you better make sure your field goal kicker is somebody who can kick field goals. And, I think Schrader's got a great leg and needs to get some things worked out. I'm not saying you bench him necessarily, but I would certainly look at it, especially if I felt like somebody was good within the first, 40 yards. If somebody's pretty good at that situation, but they're not necessarily great at the length things, I would certainly look at that in practice this week because, we've changed holders now, now granted, he did make the one kick. So that was certainly an important kick, but just too many missed opportunities. So Yama, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, Zach Yoakum was the guy who was obviously the kickoff guy last year and was competing with Schrader. I mean, Yoakum didn't look, to be fair, Yoakum did not look good in camp.
Not early, yes.
He looked good. He looked good in the spring.
Yeah.
And I thought he looked great in the spring, but so maybe he hasn't been good in practice, and that's kind of like they're at where they're at there. But I mean, I don't think there's any Notre Dame fan who watched that game or anyone involved in the program who felt confident that Schrader was going to make the kick.
That's what I'm concerned about. Yes.
Yeah. And when
because if they didn't score a touchdown, what was going to happen there?
Yeah. Yeah. And when I heard Freeman say that they were going to play to get the kick there, which is the smart play in terms of, that's like,
if you're confident in your kicker, yes.
The kicker, but you, it's unfounded confidence. You shouldn't have. So they needed to score there.
Maybe that's coach speak. Maybe he's trying to, send a message. You know what I mean? Send a message to the guy like, hey, I still have faith in you. And, just like last week, he took the blame for everything that happened, which he should do. So maybe that's smart, but I agree with you. I would have had definite thoughts about trying to kick it. You know, in a game
I would have not kicked that at
Yeah.
all. Like, I just don't. I mean, if you get forced into it, then fine. But no, yeah.
So to me, it's not don't change your kicker, change your strategy. Stop sending them out there on 4th and 3 and 4th and 6. Like, you need to be going for these. That's the biggest problem. Like, and like, to me, the punting in situations where you shouldn't be punting, you're running plays on 3rd and 6 that aren't designed. Like, if you're in between the 45 and the 40, you should never be punting the ball. That should never happen. You need to be more aggressive. You know, they did the fake punt on the first drive and led to a touchdown. And then after that, like, their decision making from there was frankly bad. Like, in my opinion, it was bad. Like, you need to be more aggressive there. But the other problem there, and Jamie alluded to this, is where are the winners on 3rd down? Like, where are the winning play calls that you have that's like, we're gonna win on 3rd down, right? So, like, that's where I have a problem with it, like with the kicking. I do want to get to like just the general, like, Notre Dame won the game, and the way that they won the game, I think, is very, very positive for the season going forward. Like,
absolutely.
Everything else that happened is like a huge concern for me. But in terms of team building, the way that they came out and won the game, and Sam Hartman throwing his body over the first down marker when he didn't do it last week. The defense, I didn't think that Notre Dame was going to get the ball back at all.
Yeah.
And the defense held strong. Again, the defense won Notre Dame this football game. So like, to me, the end of the game matters so much for the team going forward. But I mean, honestly, like, I excuse the defense from like everything else in terms of the concerns. They played in a phenomenal football game. You give the team that many possessions when you're within 1 possession or 2 possessions or whatever, like, they are going to score. I mean, especially with a quarterback like that, they are going to score. The defense played a phenomenal football game. The offense was bad. Jared Parker was awful tonight. Okay. But the fact is, they found a way to win the game. And how many times have we seen it? Every year, there's some dumb game like this where you win for no reason at all. Virginia 2015, Virginia Tech 2019, Pitt 2018. Like, there's just always a game. The Virginia Tech 2021. Just a ridiculous victory on the way to going 11-1. Like, that's ridiculous that Notre Dame won that game. It's kind of silly that Notre Dame won the game, the coming back the way that they did. But the fact is, they did. And it's very important in building and building and building. Tons to talk about there. I don't know how much longer you can stay, Mike. There's like another comment you want to make before you got to head out and police the board.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the interesting thing is Notre Dame's kind of Ohio State tonight. You know what I mean? Where I feel like Ohio State didn't necessarily play well and then won at the end. I think Notre Dame's in the same situation that Ohio State is in. And again, I think Ohio State didn't play well because Notre Dame forced them not to necessarily play well. But in this game, Notre Dame just didn't play well, especially offensively. And so, but they're kind of in the same mental space right now in that, they won a big game. They won it on the road, and they did what they had to do to win, to continue their season to be a success. And that's a good program building thing. The only thing I want to ask is, I've talked to Yama about this, and before I take off, I just want to get your thoughts, Jamie. What do you guys think of this running situation? Because to me, I think it's a big problem, and I don't understand why you're not trying to get the ball out in space to some of your better, faster guys. I realize that the pin and pull has been very, very effective, but at the same time, hasn't been overly effective, but certainly in this game, and at times, and it just. I think sometimes it's the second down where you get nothing on first down that makes it real difficult for this offense, especially if receivers are out. So just want to get your thoughts, and then I got to bounce.
Yeah, I think that the frustrating part about everything that happened with the running game tonight was I don't mind them coming out and being like, obviously the receivers you mentioned, that's a big deal.
It
Like
is,
you
sure.
have to play and you have to play heavy and you have to do these certain things. But when you aren't winning,
Yes.
you aren't winning up front and
need
you
to adjust,
continue
yeah.
to do the same thing.
Yeah.
That's like bad coaching.
Yeah.
That's bad coaching.
Yeah.
It just is, right? So that was the case really for in addition to like the problems like scheming up plays, like, but that was the biggest problem. Like, you can still run 12 personnel and spread them out. They've done it this year.
Yes. Yeah.
So why didn't they do that in this game? I don't understand. Like, why not just come out, it just like one play and just go, okay, just Baylor splits out by everybody's, receivers, twins by the numbers. Everybody's just wide out and just see how Elko adjusts. That's not something you've run it like twice all year,
Yeah.
but when nothing else is working, why aren't you trying other things? That's what I just don't understand. Like, and even if you think about like after other than the first drive, they got obviously bailed out by the great call and great scheme on that punt, fake punt. But other than that first drive, Hartman and other than Mitchell Evans just balling out,
Yeah.
Hartman had to like do stuff with his legs the whole night. There was nothing. They had nothing running open. And I mean, Duke is a good defense, but you got to get them at some point.
Yeah.
And they got him they got him nothing. Like, it was the whole
other
time.
Than Evans. Yeah. Other than Evans,
really. Right. And some of those catches too were just ridiculous. Right. Like, so I don't know. I just think that this game, it should at the very least be a wake-up call for Jared Parker that this is like, you cannot do this. Like,
yeah,
they're going to, like, if they do this against like
USC, they're going to get killed.
Yeah.
Because you just can't, you're going to have to score, right?
Yeah.
You just can't, just, and that's what I tried to say last week.
But yeah.
It is bad, but you know what? They tried the same thing against USC last year, right? Everybody was bunched in the middle, and they just shut down Notre Dame's running game because they knew, obviously, that Drew Pine couldn't hurt them with the passing game. But everybody said, "Well, their defense is terrible. They're terrible. They're terrible. They're terrible. They're terrible," and they looked terrible until Notre Dame played them. Then they looked all right. Notre Dame just didn't do enough against them. And the problem is when you got a guy who can score a lot of points like Williams, you're going to have to run and hit some big plays because they're going to put up 40. Somehow you got to get to 40, and 14 play drives aren't going to get you to 40. They're just not. And that's the problem that I see with this. They're going to have to get this fixed. And there are ways for you to spread out a defense and use your guys like Jeremiah Love and JD Price to hit some big plays. We've seen them do it already in the season, not just in the pass game, but in the running game as well. So I don't know. It's just something I think they're going to have to address. And I don't know. I know you guys are going to have plenty to talk about and everything, and I got to get rolling here, but just wanted to kind of offer my thoughts and we'll see you on the boards and thanks for watching, folks. But we'll let the Yama and the Flamang do their thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mike.
All right,
Thanks,
guys. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Hey,
All
it's
right,
a win. It's a win. We got to at least be happy about that, right?
It's
Later,
a
guys.
win. All
Take
care. Just want to point out this from Matt, who's at the press conference. Marcus Freeman was talking about Jaden Thomas and Jaden Greathouse. Jaden Thomas was running before the game. It's close. The fact that he was running is a good sign. And Jaden Greathouse tried to go and could not. So, I had heard during the week that he had a bad wheel there. Jaden Greathouse did. The fact that they tried to go and didn't is a pretty good sign for their availability next week. So, just wanted to just get that up on the board, and so everyone could see that. And I'm going to get to a couple super chats as well. CFB Hertz, thank you for the super chat. Before the season and after last week, I said this was a 9-3 team. If only I weren't so blindly optimistic. I actually think that's still in play now, given that they just won this game. And then MTH says he just thank you for the super chat. I just wanted to support the channel. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for doing that. MTH. So really appreciate your contribution there. So all right, here's the thing. Here's another super chat from Caleb Collins. Parker and Tobias can go ahead and leave. Little harsh on Tobias Merriweather. To be clear though, no. I'm just saying it's like it's kind of a harsh thing to say.
They shouldn't leave. None of these guys should leave.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But my point is like Tobias Merriweather did not have a good football game. And here's the thing about it that I really didn't like is aside from the fact that he had the drops, I felt like his body language was really not good. Really not good. Like Rico Flores dropped the pass early too, but his body language is that of just like, throw it to me again. Like he wants to be involved. Like on that crossing route that Tobias did not catch, he just didn't look like he was really looking for the ball. Didn't kind of turn. Like he didn't want the ball. It didn't look like to me. And the one at the end, like I don't like the call on the push off just because.
I mean that happens all the time.
When it's incomplete,
make the play.
He should have caught it. Catch the ball regardless catch the ball regardless of whether it's a penalty or not. So I didn't like that. I didn't like it. It was his time on the boundary. Didn't go very well. That's concerning to me, just straight up. I've obviously been advocating for them to throw him the ball more, and Chris Tyree as well. Tobias did not earn that. I would not be surprised if thank you for the super chat, James Benison. And we had another super chat from Irish0295. So thank you for those super chats. I would not be surprised if Rico Flores was the starting field when Jaden Thomas comes back. I would not be surprised. I'm not calling for that because it's not my place, but I just would not be shocked if that happened. He made a play. Rico Flores made a play on the last possession there. So it's just there's something to be said for that. Jamie, where do you want to start on this? We could start with the defense, or we can start with the offense and how they played, how you thought the game was called. I know we both feel very strongly about the way the offense was called, but you can go where you want, and then we'll start from there, and then we'll address the other part later. So it's your choice here.
Let's start with the defense because if we're talking about why Notre Dame won this game, like you said before, Greg, they won this game because of the defense.
Yeah,
and
100%.
You know what? And obviously Sam Hartman came up huge on the final drive, and all of that as well, and we'll hit on all of that kind of stuff. Because despite his numbers, I mean Hartman, I thought he did a good job with what he was given, for that. But onto the defense, man, I honestly couldn't be more impressed with how the defense played in this game. Like you said, you're gonna if your offense is like 3 and out and they're not doing anything for the whole time, and then you're getting put into like not the greatest situations over and over again. I mean, and they just show a resiliency there that is refreshing, like that they show that was kind of a staple of like the Clark Lee defenses, really, right? That they always had. And obviously they didn't really have that as much last year. And man, I got to give a ton of credit to the defensive line. All these people are mentioned. Howard Cross. Howard Cross, a second round pick. No, he's not going to be a second round pick, but it doesn't matter. The guy's a phenomenal college football player. He's balling out right now. He had 5.5 havoc plays. He had 2 forced fumbles. He had 3.5 tackles for loss. And numerous pressures. He had 13 tackles in the game.
Yeah. 13
tackles. Like, he is playing like Trevor Laws, in the one, whatever that I think it was 2007 season or whatever, where he was just like playing out of his mind, where, other guys are playing pretty good too, but like he's playing at that kind of level in terms of just his motor and just constantly go all the time. To the point where it's like, and obviously you have to give him rest and you have to give other guys playing, but he's just playing so well when he's in there that it's hard to do. And you know what? Riley Mills, his big thing has been finishing. How many times did he get Leonard down today when he had to? He did.
Yeah.
Like he made those tackles. JJB tipped the ball today, had some good pressure, did his thing. Marist, big time game from Marist. Big time game from Marist. Really stepped up, especially the guys getting a bagel on the scorecard last week, which should have been a bagel or whatever. He didn't play great in the last game. Definitely wasn't impactful. He was impactful in this game. Bertrand played well. Front seven played well in this game. And I think too, like X Watts came up big, right? Came up big, gets the pick. Tremendous job on that pick, because I think they really did.
I don't think he was robbing on that play, by the way.
I don't think he was
I'll
either.
probably do a breakdown on that.
I think he just made a play.
Yeah.
I think he just made a play.
That's a very high level play. Like basically I think he's deep middle. He's playing single high, and he read there's no deep threat. Like he read that the routes had cut off at that point, settled his feet, read the in breaker, and cut in front. That's a great play by him. I think Leonard assumed that he was not going to be there, and he was. It's a tremendous play by Howard Cross there. Jamie, what do you think of the targeting? Let's hear it. Let's go.
Okay, I have seen that targeting, that specific call. That has happened in a game before. I think it happened to that Clemson linebacker, I'm forgetting his name, but it happened with him in the playoff against James Skalski. It happened to him on Justin Fields, and his was it was pretty egregious. It's
also upper body too.
Yeah,
it's also upper body. I've never seen it. A player is diving low on another player, hits him in the hip. I've never seen that.
Never seen it. Also, I didn't think it was super obvious crown of the helmet. It was dip. I don't know. It's just such a judgment call that, and especially where he hit him. I don't think we're policing that out of the game. I don't get it.
No one thinks, that. No one says that.
That's not a dirty play. That's not a dirty play.
No.
So I don't get that. I don't get that call at all. Obviously, so this is something, and I was texting with Matt Freeman during the game a little bit. I'm sure with some of the false starts, especially with the Zeke stuff, that they were I think they were probably doing some clapping, and they were probably, doing some calls, some dummy call stuff to get them to jump for some of those false starts. So I think that had something to do with the kind of penalties on with the offensive line in this game. But even you shouldn't line up offside. I think that's a given. You shouldn't line up offside for both Botelho and Hart. But when is a football game? I've played a million football games. The refs tell you, they warn you. That's what they're supposed to friggin' do, or else you could call offside all the time. And apparently they just called it in this game. I just don't get it. It's not even an unwritten rule. It's a thing that happens. It's they go and they'll tell you. If Botelho had lined up a bunch of times offside and then they're he just keeps doing it, I get it. If Hart had done that a bunch of times, I get it. But you literally just have to say back up 5. Yeah. That's it. And I don't know if it's an ACC, we're trying to break the streak against Notre Dame thing or whatever, but those are BS calls to me. I just don't get that. I don't get that at all.
The ball that goes out of bounds, not reviewable.
Yes.
Not a reviewable play. That is a complete failure by the administration of officiating. They had a timeout to do this, Jamie. Yes. They had a timeout to go back and look at it, and no one said, is this even legal for us to do? Awful. That is so egregious. That is honestly how there was an article written in The Athletic about how Notre Dame was lined up, or they called a Cal for being lined up off sides, and it was called offsides, and it wasn't offsides, and Notre Dame ended up scoring, and it was like, I mean, the Athletic did a huge feature on it. Yeah. Officials got suspended. They need to be suspended. That can never happen. That can never, a misapplication of the replay process where you review something that is not reviewable, not to mention the fact, where is the conclusive evidence that that ball went over the pylon? The pylon cam doesn't even show it. Where is it? You can't do that. You can't. It's terrible.
Yeah. I am like speechless with it at this point. Like that kind of thing, like to happen. Even some of the stuff like where it's like, well, PI, but they're going to pull the thing. And I get it. Like it was an uncatchable. Yes. But then just call holding. Cause he held him.
He's clearly holding him.
Exactly. He's holding him. So just call
when he turns upfield to go, like he grabs him, like call the holding.
Like it's a penalty. Call it. Like I don't even know. Like whatever. The refs are terrible. Whatever. You threw up the Mitchell Evans numbers.
6 for 134.
And he was like limping a lot of the game too. Yeah. What a friggin' baller. Like, man, I think the one thing is Evans, I'm not at all surprised by his ability after the catch, because if anyone watched any of the stuff that he did as a quarterback in high school, and you saw him as a runner and him run at that size, you're like, oh, if this guy can catch, he is going to be a weapon. Like he is going to be a weapon for Notre Dame. But then it's like, he's converting out what's going to be. I think the guy's got great hands. Like, holy, like, just I don't know how many freakish contested has. Like Brock Bowers had that. If anyone watched the Georgia game today, phenomenal game he had, and he's obviously a special athlete, special ball skills. I mean, Mitchell Evans, this was pretty close. This was pretty close to it.
It's up there. I mean, with the one-handed catch too, again. Like, how many weeks now? I mean, that's like Michael Mayer performance is what it is. I mean, there's no way to see it. Would Michael Mayer do better? I don't know. You can't say. It's like when Ramon Henderson or Xavier Watts does something like Kyle Hamilton. Like, that's how he's playing. He's playing at the level of Michael Mayer. And it's I mean, Notre Dame absolutely needed it. Jamie, I want to ask you this. Second week in a row, minimum rotation from the front seven. Any concerns about wearing them down?
They rotated them a decent amount in this game.
So I mean, you noted like late in the game.
That was a mistake. That was a mistake.
Not just that, but you also have a reserve corner, Jaden Mickey, out there who is like, look, it's just not the time for it. It's just not the time.
It wasn't the time. And I get it. Because you want to get these guys and you want to get them fresh for the end.
Yeah.
That part of it. Or even if you do, okay, you're going to start the guys in the drive, right? And so that's fine. But third down, and they didn't sub in. I was like, maybe because they were worried that Duke didn't sub in, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's 3rd and 5. I just don't get you. So you have Rubio, you have Nana, and you have Junior Tuihalamaka out there as 3 of the defensive linemen. You have Jaden Mickey at corner. I can't recall who was in it at safety or anything like that, but it just did not. That was a key third down. Like they basically got obviously a huge play there, and then went on to score on that drive. I mean, that wasn't the time. It was fourth quarter. It was like 8 minutes left in the game. Like that was a horrible decision for them to do that. So I think, like I would have said sub less in that situation. But I think for the most part, like Anye played in this game. Rubio played a decent amount. I mean, Nana was barely in any of the game previously. He played a bunch of this game. Obviously, Burnham and Tuihalamaka played a bit more because Botello got booted out. But once again, too, Josh Burnham, I know he, had the one broken tackle for the TFL, but the guy is always by the football. He is always by the football. I mean, he needs to play more. He needs to play more. He just is good when he's out there. And they had points too where they were they subbed in Kaiser for Maris, right? Like they did that in this game. I don't know if Sneed played in this game.
He did. He was definitely in on at least one of the third downs because I saw him. I was like, well, that didn't really work out. So he was definitely out there at least the one time. He was probably in there a few more plays as well. Just didn't notice.
I mean, I will say they were phenomenal on third down in this game. The defense was phenomenal on third down in this game. I thought they did a great job with the stunts up front. Just tight. Like they ran them really, really well. Like probably the best that they've run it with, Maris specifically with whether he was inside or outside. Because I thought they weren't running it as good when they were doing it. And they didn't necessarily spy Leonard. And I think that was the right move. It was to run those kind of stunts to kind of squeeze the pocket that way because they weren't getting a rush. And this is the other thing about the defense in this game. First of all, Leonard, no picks before this game. Threw a pick, obviously, in this game. He had only been sacked once before this game.
Not only no picks, but he was putting the ball in danger. Like he put the ball in very dangerous spots. Notre Dame had him in a bad way in this game. Very, very good performance. Yeah.
Notre Dame did a much better job than Clemson did, and Clemson actually did a pretty good job. I mean, he completed 44% of his passes, right? And he had to throw the ball away a ton. I don't even think a lot of times too, he threw the ball. There was probably smart plays to do. But really, other than if he couldn't run, I mean, and I feel terrible that he got hurt at the end of the game. That's obviously sucks because he's a really good player, and obviously that's the kind of thing that could ruin Duke's season. So I mean, I'm not rooting for Duke's season to be ruined by any means, because I think they actually have whatever with all this stuff we're talking about, the things that Notre Dame didn't do well. I mean, Duke's got a good football team, and Leonard obviously is a big part of that. But there's no way they want to run Leonard. They ran him 15 times in this game, because I think he got sacked 3 times. So it's
they had to find something to move.
They had to. Yeah. They had no option. But they don't want to go into a game running him that much. But they didn't have any choice, and obviously that was a big part of them being able to kind of get back in the game, right? I'll say and Waters ran. Really hard.
What an animal he is. Jeez.
Yeah. But it's incredible though, because you're Waters, oh man, that guy ran hard. He must have had a huge game. 13 carries, 45 yards. He really didn't. I mean, he had a couple really, really hard runs, but he just, I mean, he had to earn it. And which just shows that the kind of play that how well Notre Dame played in the game.
Yeah. Nicholas Baker asks, I hope to see Greg's breakdown of the touchdown for Duke. Was Harper supposed to stay with number 8? I don't have to do a breakdown. He absolutely should have. And I don't know, Jamie. He just got lost. He got for a split second, he got confused as to whether or not he should go. And then he knew at the end, I do need to go. Yeah. And he just turned him loose. So it was his mistake for sure.
Yeah, it did 100% seem like his, because he was like too late, and then he was like pointing to Watts, who was like, yeah, clearly
like don't look at me. Like no, Watts is like no, right? no.
So yeah, no, it was a mistake by Harper. But I mean, that's something though that I mean I mentioned it in a tweet after, but like, where was that kind of thing on a third down for Notre Dame?
Yeah,
they just didn't. They weren't doing anything to kind of mess them up with motion. And this is also part of it though, where you're like having those guys out, because some of those things are like in the game plan package stuff, especially with some of the other guys like Flores. As much as you're like, man, this guy, first of all, Flores to get put in that situation as a true freshman, to have to play that many snaps, like I mean, that's a big deal. I know people were like, man, what Braylon James is whenever. I mean, there's no way Braylon James, if he would have played in the game, would have made things probably worse for Notre Dame. Just in terms of
he was clear. Him and Faison were just clear. If people get hurt, just be out there.
Just be out there. Just run a go route. Clear out here or something like that. That's what it would have been, right? Because just think about like even Flores, who's played a lot, like just the one time that he went in motion and basically ran into Love in the backfield and kind of almost like they were lucky they didn't get a fumble there. But that's like somebody who's played a lot and has done that kind of thing. And that's where the timing, got kind of screwed up. So imagine if Braylon James was like running in motion there, and you're not doing anything to kind of help him out in that situation. You're putting him in a bad position, right? As much as people just want to, it's kind of like with Tobias Merriweather last year, where people were like, man, this guy's got to, it's like he's got to be ready for all this, and like them putting him in and running like a slot fade against Stanford, like, yeah, that's great. Like do that kind of thing. And then his stuff expanded as the season went along. But like, that's kind of where now they got to get to a point too, where I would guess that, I mean, during the bye is going to be big for, those guys, because they kind of have to get those guys more ready now because just necessity.
Yeah. Jared May asks, with Burnham the starter next week with Botoho out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would expect he would be the starter. I forgot about that because the second half, but yes, he'll have to be the starter. And it seems like they do play Tui Halamaka too, but I mean, when Botello got out, they put in Burnham. I mean, they did put in Tui Halamaka after too. I mean, in that way too, it's like nice that they have two guys who actually have played there. So then they don't have to put in Boubacar Traore, just like, all right, man, we're throwing you in on the road against Louisville. Like that would be tough, right? That would be a tough situation. But it's also one of these things too, where this is at the point of the year. So look, like Duke was missing a starting corner. They're missing their starting left tackle, who's, next to Leonard, probably the best player on their team. Those are big losses. And obviously Notre Dame is affected. You're just getting to that point in the season where like guys are hurt, guys are playing hurt, and there's guys who are just too hurt to play. So it's a grind, man. It's a real grind. Like, in that way too, I wish Notre Dame had a bye before USC just so they had that time.
Yeah.
For guys to kind of heal up a bit. But I mean, this was another like physical, like mentally tough game. And I mean, they're better obviously than Louisville. Anyone who watched the Louisville game on Friday could just let you know that Louisville's a very flawed team. But I mean, Louisville could also beat them if, you got enough guys out or you're not playing well. Right. So that could happen.
Scott R asks, what was Tyree thinking on that punt foobar?
I don't know.
That is just an ultimate brain fart. Like that is the ultimate, like I am outside of my mind on this. That was crazy. I was watching it and I'm watching him like, please don't dive after this. And he's clearly like, you can almost see his own inner monologue. Like, I should not do this. Like as he's doing it. Don't ever do that again. That's all you can really say. And that's all they're going to tell him. Like, don't ever do that. Like, it's almost one of those things like Biaggi comes back and it's like, there's nothing else to say beyond don't. Like, like it's an insane thing.
He did make a play right after. So
he did. He did.
Yeah.
Good for him. But that was crazy. We really do need to talk about the offense though, Jamie. All right. I want to know how concerned are you by what you saw tonight? Looking forward.
Okay. First, let me just mention that Duke's defense coming into the game, second in points per drive, fifth in yards per play.
Yeah.
It's a good defense. Like I'll throw that out there. So Notre Dame wasn't going to score a lot of points no matter what in this game. It wasn't going to be like a game where no one has scored 40 since Elko's
What did you predict?
I think I predict 31.
I predicted 27.
I think I said 31-21, I think was my
okay. All right.
So
All right.
like, and really like Notre Dame should have scored that many in this game, at least,
Oh, for sure. With what the defense gave them, the amount of opportunity, the short fields, Jamie.
Yes.
They never have short fields. They gave them so many short fields. Please continue.
I just thought that, I mean, I guess we'll never know exactly. Well, I guess this is the good thing. Jared Parker is going to speak on Tuesday. And one thing I think he's done a great job of is he's pretty frank and honest and just kind of speaks like exactly like kind of puts it out in plain English, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to talk about this game, and I'm sure he will own a lot of the things that went wrong in this game. And I really need to know more about like how all of that got impacted with not having like Thomas and Greathouse, and how that impacted the game plan. But even saying that, you have to adapt better. And that it was a failure to adapt in this game, just with what they did in the running game, period. And not only, it wasn't just like, I think one of the things that we've seen in the Ohio State game, people were critical of the Ohio State game, but in that game, you saw wrinkles in the running game that they didn't have in this game.
Yeah.
And yes, it is easier to call plays when things are going well. I think everybody's
for sure
noted that.
I mean, everything you do works.
Everything you do works. Play action, everything gets to kind of flow off of it. But it's those games when things aren't going good, and you have to be able to find something. And I just like, whatever, just as a personal example, my dad was a longtime high school football coach, play caller, all this. And he coached for many years at a program that, they always made the playoffs, but they were like, not talent wise, they were rarely one of the teams that had like top talent, right? Like he won a couple championships there, but when they had the talent, but most of the times they played in a league where they were like mid to the bottom of like talent in the conference. So a lot of his play calling was like, these guys are better than us. And you have to find ways to, do that. And it's not necessarily to say like, oh, these guys are better, or Duke is better than Notre Dame, so they need to, you shouldn't be able to have to do that. But just sometimes your guys aren't playing well, or what you thought was going to work isn't working. And you have to come up with better solutions. You just have to. And obviously, we're going to rewatch the game. We're going to see all of these different things that they did and didn't do. But just my initial reaction was, I don't like 1st and 10. There was just no creativity on 1st and 10 at all. They never schemed, they didn't scheme anything up on 3rd down.
Yeah.
And he's done it in other games. So that's why I was like, I think it was maybe in the moment, and he just was like caught up, and he was like even if you think about it, after they spiked the ball, like
they didn't know what to do. They had no what to. They literally they were running out the clock because they didn't have a play ready to go. The clock was running down.
Yeah,
and you don't want to use a timeout in that situation because you don't have a ton of time, right? Like, so you don't want to use it, or they may not have had any, or something. Yeah. Either way, they didn't want to use a timeout, and they just ran a play because they didn't know what to do. Like, so that operation was really not good for Notre Dame on that one.
They got lucky with that touchdown.
The 4th and 2 play, Jamie, where Hartman rolled out and he ended up scrambling for the 1st down. Duke is clearly going to play man. No one plays zone on 4th and 2. Okay. Like nobody does.
No.
They're clearly going to play man.
It's like
So
99%.
Notre Dame ran out their receivers. They all ran 5 yards and turned around. That is a zone beater.
Yeah.
That is not a man beater, right? That is a zone. Find a spot in the zone and turn around, and you'll get the ball. That is a zone beater. That is not a man beater. You're never getting zone on 4th and 2. I was just like, that play had no chance of success beyond a broken situation where Hartman runs for it. There were so many opportunities. Like that, we got a super chat from Caleb Collins. And this is harsh, right? Parker runs a high school passing scheme. This is harsh, but it's not that far off, Jamie. It really isn't. Every time, like, look, before the last throw to Tobias, people are like, the receivers stink. The receivers are terrible, right? I'm like, okay, like Flores and Tobias, they need to catch the ball, period. But on both of those plays where they drop the ball, they're running 5-yard crossers every time. All they do is run crossers. They run the turnaround thing where they turn around every time. They ran the same concept on 1st down and 3rd down. They ran the same exact passing play on 1st and 3rd down, neither of which was successful. It's like, what is that? Now, are you having to do that because you have Flores in the game, right? Is that one of those things?
And that it might be.
It's possible.
It's possible.
But the other part, Jamie, is like, to your point, were you hamstrung by this? You didn't have special plays in. I know for a fact Notre Dame knew during the week Jaden Thomas wasn't going to play. They knew during the week Jaden Greathouse probably wasn't going to play. Like it's not like this happened Friday. They had time to come up with something in the passing game. If you don't feel like the receiver, get the running backs involved. Have someone run a wheel route. Have something involved with Jeremiah Love. Get someone involved there to where you're not just running just a bunch of crossers with everyone under 10 yards. Like, it's just not that difficult to cover. And that's the concern that I have going forward. Add that in the offensive line, which I know Duke's got a good defense. I understand that. I just felt like we really saw some poor play from those guys. And it's just like, it's going to be very hard. Now, granted, Louisville's not that. USC is definitely not that. But I just don't think that's a passing game you can beat like a good team with. Like, I just don't think you can beat USC like that. Like, no way. No way. Like, I understand. Even if the defense plays really well, USC's putting up 31, 35 points.
Yeah.
At least. Like, I just don't see that. That's
asking too much.
That's my biggest concern there, Jamie. I mean, do you think I'm overreacting? What do you think about that?
I don't know about whether or not where the passing game is at, scheme wise, and how it's affected by the receivers and all of that. So
yeah,
I think part of that is I am going to give I have to give a little bit of leeway there with it. But the one thing Tommy Rees, I think, the guy got a lot of hate from Notre Dame fans. I understand why people don't like him or whatever, right? I get it, right? I thought he was really, really good on 3rd down at finding just getting things to win. Everyone would know the ball was going to Michael Mayer, and yet they would find a way to scheme Michael Mayer open. And
yeah,
I saw a lot of stuff that Kevin Johns, the Duke offense coordinator, was doing was very similar to what Tommy Rees would do in terms of those option routes. And yeah, maybe you can't run some of the option routes with some of the guys if you don't trust them. I get it. But some of that stuff where you're scheming stuff's out of the bunch, there's just none of that. There is none of that. Why not? I just don't. I don't get that. I don't get that. And then all of a sudden you end up relying on like Mitchell Evans playing hero ball. And if Mitchell Evans wasn't a monster in this game, Notre Dame's offense would have been screwed.
No chance.
They would have had no chance in this game. So it's got to be like a go back to the drawing board type of game. Like it has to be. Like it's funny because I think earlier in the day people were like making comments against Notre Dame fans because Utah lost yesterday. Sorry, when Utah lost, right? And people were like, "Oh, Andy Ludwig or whatever," right? But it's like, well, one thing what Andy Ludwig does well too is he schemes guys up, especially he knows how to scheme tight ends open, right? Like that's one thing he does, and their short and intermediate passing game to like convert and move the sticks is very good at Utah, and it has been for since he's been there. So I think that like they need to find something with that, because I don't think they are giving I don't think that you're helping Hartman enough with it. And that's
Right.
just that's how I was thinking in this game. I'm like, I think Hartman really his numbers obviously aren't good, but I doubt there's many times if we go back and we saw like all 22, we'd see like Hartman's like, man, he missed that guy was wide open. Like, I don't think there was a lot of that,
No. I mean, certainly not in this game. I mean, I think there might have been one play where he had Tyree on a crosser, on a deep cross. It was kind of late. I'm gonna go back and look because it was during the game, and it's like hard to go back, and you got to stay with the action and everything. But certainly not in this game. And the thing that I really don't understand is like this thing with the play action, Jamie. Like there was that was one where it was like, I don't care if you don't like Tobias or whatever. I honestly don't care. You have to run it. When they do when they're in it's either 12 or 21. You have two wide receivers that are kind of in bunch, and they're in the in like two kind of dual H backs.
Yeah.
You know what formation I'm talking about?
Yes.
And Hartman's under center there. And it's like if they send a receiver or a tight end across, then it's just the corner goes with, and it's just literally Tobias on the safety with a free run. It's like, I don't care, honestly, how you feel about Tobias Merriweather. You have to turn around. You have to put the ball out there so the safety sees that. You pull it back and let him run it go. And if he misses it, then he misses it. You have to have that in your offense. Just you have to. Like, it needs to be there because you're running. You can't have it be every time you're under center, you're running the ball. It can't be that. You have to threaten them with that. They have to feel that. They have to feel like I can't just fly up here because they could throw it behind me. They have to do it. Okay. I don't care how you feel.
I saw it in the Georgia game today.
Exactly.
They did the exact same thing.
Yeah. I don't care how you feel about Tobias. I don't. You need to do it. You have to have that in your offense. You had all this time to build that. You're going to be this kind of a running team. You have to have play action like that. In your
play
arsenal.
Action stuff isn't good. It's not good. You
have to. It can't just be run or straight drop out of shotgun, Jamie.
It can't always be a shot play like, and that's if you're watching like Louisville's offense, and I think most people will see it next week. That's their problem is that they basically, I mean, they are successful at it a lot where they run play action and they get a lot of shot plays, but they'll have to like max protect and they'll run like a 2-man or a 3-man route. And it's like if it's covered, you got nothing. You know what I mean? Like if you hit the wrong call at the right time, if they didn't bite hard, you got nothing, right? And they're just not enough there. Like there needs to be more. There needs to be more there. I don't know. I just specifically too with the running game, I just thought it was just like a poorly called game with the running game. Like um, just no feel, no feel for
Yeah.
what was going on in the game. Your guys
Yeah.
are losing up front. You can't run power. You can't.
Yeah.
Like that's just you can't run power when you guys are getting your butts kicked up front. That's just, you know, because I'm watching the game and I'm thinking like, well, are they like, is it just numbers? And it wasn't numbers.
It's not. Yeah,
They
that's
weren't.
the thing.
They had
It's
too
not.
high a lot of the game. A lot of the game.
Yeah. So they're not sending the extra safety down there. It's like you said, you can run toss. I mean, they ran toss a couple of times, but they ran it with Estime. Like, try it with Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
Or
like Price.
Yeah. Price. Thinking of Price, did he get a carry in this game? That was another one. It's like, man, I just assumed that given the fact that
he did not.
Yeah, he didn't get a carry.
He was in the game, yeah.
He was in the game, but they didn't give him the ball. And so I just assumed, like, okay, you're down receivers. You gotta.
I just thought they were.
I
thought as soon as Thomas came out, I thought it was like, okay, well, we're gonna build things this week around getting the backs the ball in space, like trying to do that because you don't have any other options really if that's the case. Like, which at the beginning of the game for them to come out in 11, and I was like, they're coming out in 11. I was like, okay. Like, I didn't think that was like a bad thing that what they were doing there. Like that was like pretty good because I guarantee you Duke was like, what? Like they're not expecting that. So that's fine what they came out with. But just that the split backs when they're like 21 or 22, you got to develop some passing game out of that. You got to have something. You have
with
to
play action.
Because
they expect run.
With play action, you got to motion a guy out to the slot. Like you have to do more there than what you do. And I understand some of these is like Jeremiah Love, you're only, it's a package, so you're not doing it. Well, he can be the guy who stays in the backfield. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And you just say, hey, JD, this is literally what you're concentrating on all week is just this part of it. Like, you have to do that. You have to do that. And I think that's the thing, like, was the most frustrating part of the game for the offense was just like, I don't think they did a good job helping the players win with how the game was called. And I think you could say, like, with Ohio State, like, first of all, their defense is phenomenal. They have a great defense. And I don't think for what they were doing, I didn't think that what Notre Dame did in the game, like, it certainly wasn't like a bad game plan for what for what Ohio State was doing. This was a bad game plan, and there was not a good lack of adjustments. And like, it just was, kudos to Hartman, kudos to Mitchell Evans, kudos for everybody on the final drive to get the win. Like, I mean, that is huge. And hopefully, because everyone's has stinkers, and so it happens, right? Sometimes the defense has a stinker and the offense needs to bail them out. It happens, right?
Yeah.
But that was a big time stinker of a game from the offense. And I think it's got to be better. Like you said, it's got to be better if you're going to beat USC. It's got to be better if you're going to beat Clemson, because Clemson's got a good defense. It's just they got a good defense. They're not a great defense. They're a good defense. Yeah. And they'll give you the same kind of problems that Duke has, and probably more, because they have better front end talent, right? So
yeah, it's got to be better. And if you've got a business that's got to be better and a website that's got to be better, Jamie, then what do you do? What do you do, Jamie?
I think
you hit up Fahid Sadrazadeh at VSR Media.
I was going to say,
Yeah, he's a Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Jamie, I do want to give a shout out to my sister, both of my sisters who are watching this show. She's been texting me throughout. She doesn't know how to send a chat, but hello, Kristen and Carrie. How are you? Hope you're doing great. They're drinking wine right now, Jamie. I do want to end on, I kind of started the show with talking about Marcus Freeman and the way that he managed this game. I had a big problem with it, the lack of aggressiveness. But where do you come out on that, Jimmy? Where do you come out on that?
I think normally I would 100% be with you if I thought the offense was, capable of making those fourth downs.
Well, the problem is so many of them happened in the first half when it was like you didn't really know, So anyway, continue.
But maybe he knew. Maybe he knew because of what they were missing. In that way, like in terms of like the personnel and stuff. So that I don't feel as strongly about it as you, although the kicking the field goal, because now you stay up by 2. Yes, I agree with that kind of stuff, especially because I don't think anyone Schrader's going to have to go on a streak here for people to feel confident in him. He's because I think, John Doerr was inconsistent, but he came through in enough clutch moments that you just kind of felt like he was going to make those kicks.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously his numbers were never like horrible or whatever, right? But he would miss a gimme every now and then people would, and obviously like Groupie was pretty consistent. He's kicking the NFL now. Yoon was very consistent. But it's kind of been a while since Notre Dame had a kicker that you're like, oh man, right? And that's kind of where it's at with Schrader right now.
Yeah.
So, well, first of all, you know what? I want to give credit to Freeman and Marty Biaggi for that.
For sure.
Punt.
Huge. I mean, honestly, like that. That's a huge part of like why they won the game. I mean, full stop.
Absolutely huge. And so I think that was obviously smart in how they do it. And I also want to give credit to Marcus Freeman right now, because it's not something in this game, but something that he did early in the season that everyone talked about, giving them the opportunities in those 2-minute drills. Because let's just say he was kind of conservative. Man, we're killing this team. We don't need to do it. All of that helped them in this moment right now. Mm-hmm. So that they won this game. So I have to huge, hat tip to, tip of the cap to Marcus Freeman for doing that and showing that confidence, because if they didn't do that, I don't know if they would have came back and won this game in that way.
You know what, Jamie? And that just made me think of something. Like last week, Notre Dame, for the first 56, 57 minutes of that game, was playing great, playing well. And then in the last 3-4 minutes, just they started doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
And this week was the complete opposite. And I can't tell you, again, how important that is to the team, to where it can, if they lose this game, not only the fact that like you lost, you're 4-2, You have a road game next week, and then you have USC after that. Like, you're really you're in a bad place. But not just that, but at winning time in the last 2 weeks, you blew it. And this week, it was the exact opposite. The defense came up with the stop they needed. They forced the kick, the pooch kick, and the offense 95-yard drive. However it needed to happen. It was very ugly. It was very not sharp at all, Jamie.
No.
But they found a way. Just like Ohio State did with their terrible drive, with their interception to lose the game that got dropped, and they went and won. And Notre Dame won the game just by making plays. Guts, hitting Mitchell Evans, hitting Rico Flores, Sam Hartman flying across the first down line this time. And then Audric Estime making the best. Last week they were struggling, and they were 10 men on the field and all that stuff. And this week they're running a play that they kind of didn't even want to run, and they're trying to just run out the clock so they can kick a field goal. And Audric Estime runs it in the end zone. The beauty of college football kind of came in both ways, and it worked out for them. And speaking of Spencer Schrader, we get mad about them not spotting the ball correctly. You know what I mean? Or on the punt. That second field goal, Jamie. Ooh, it was
close.
It was close to the point of if that's reviewable, they're overturning that, in my opinion. If it goes over, if it goes directly over,
I wasn't confident.
They're supposed to call it.
I mean, those guys are on the field, so I don't.
Yeah, for sure. It looked to me like it was wide, so I guess we'll take it. I mean, Bryce McPherson, I think he got boned on the punt. Great punter, greatest punter. He's a good punter. I mean, he does a good job. I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, he's punting well.
Yeah. Final thoughts, Jamie. Final thoughts on the game. God, what a stressful time that was. Yeah. Final thoughts for you, Jamie.
One, I think, okay, the focus after is going to be about the offense and how they struggled, and obviously the defense came up big, and they played really well. But I think I'll go kind of back to what you said right at the beginning of the show. We're talking about winning those games that it's you're kind of not supposed to win those games. Everything is you have to come up big in those moments. And I think you just have to give Notre Dame a ton of credit for that. And that's the kind of final thing that I'll say is that the big thing is that Notre Dame deserves the credit for coming up in that moment, considering you're down in the fourth quarter. They've scored, you're up, 13 nothing. They scored 2 touchdowns. They go up on you. All the momentum is going their way. Like you said, pooch punt, it's pinned right there. You have all the distance to go there. And this is Duke's Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And everyone says, "Oh, Notre Dame is their everyone's Notre Dame Super Bowl, or Notre Dame's everyone's Super Bowl." But this was actually the biggest game ever for Duke. I think maybe in the history of Duke football. Game day is there. It's a night game. They're beating Notre Dame on the road. They might be a top 10 team if they won the game, right? Has Duke been a top 10 team? I don't know. I'm not a Duke football historian, but I don't think so. Right. So they won the ACC when Steve Spurrier was there in the late 80s or something, right? That was as good as it got for them. And no one cared about ACC football then. They certainly Clemson at Florida State. I don't even know if Florida State was in the league then. Right. So it was a different time. So this would have been just absolutely massive for Duke. And they had everything that was said that they were going to win the game. Like you said, Notre Dame's not getting the ball back here, right? You tweeted it out.
I did. It just didn't look like they were going to.
Yeah. And you know what? They got the stop. They got the stop. They went down and they scored, and then they ended the game with a sack fumble. And just got to give credit to all the players for really, really, really stepping up in that moment. And I just think, that's a good sign for the rest of the year. And I think no matter what the struggles and the questions going forward, that's a pretty good sign that Notre Dame's got a good football team.
Yeah, and just like last week, we said that if they had all these plays, if they had made them, they win the game. This week, if they had all these plays, if they didn't make them, they would lose the game. They were set to lose the game. And it is funny, like, I swear, Jamie, my predictions that I just kind of like when I make up a narrative about how I think a game's going to go, like usually I have a score and I just have a feeling. Like I wrote in the prediction on our site, there is a huge chance Riley Leonard simply wills his team to victory. Whatever last week was for Notre Dame, it is this week for Duke. And the Blue Devils will suffer a similar fate. And they kind of did. And that's exactly what it was. And you said it, Jamie. It's their Super Bowl. This game meant more to Duke than it does to Notre Dame. It just did, right? It meant everything to them. And Notre Dame had to withstand that on the road with nothing going right. Notre Dame hadn't had a successful drive all second half. Like none. Nothing. And they went out there and they did it. And they did it. And it just means a lot for that team in that locker room to have done that. It just seems like every single good team has to go through something like this. And Patrick R says, "Can you predict a national championship for us?" Unfortunately, I can't. The other part is during the preseason, I predicted Notre Dame to lose to Louisville, so that's tough. I hope that doesn't come to fruition. Just because that would be a very bad podcast afterwards. I thought this was going to be a very bad podcast afterwards, Jamie. That was another thing. Because last week's podcast after the game was very difficult, as I told you. And this one was just like, I was telling my kids already, like Notre Dame's going to lose this game. And but I wasn't so upset. But so this one is just it really helps the football team kind of build and grow, and they'll grow together. And it's just like it's literally one of the best things a good team can have happen to them is to go on the road and backs against the wall and find a way to win on both offense, defense, and special teams. So any last word, Jamie? I thought you were going to say something there.
I was just going to say that you know what, this game, the way it ended, kind of reminded me of God, I can't remember the year. The second Charlie Weiss year, UCLA in that year, which was a pretty miserable game for Notre Dame. And they just came through, obviously, on that last drive. Jeff Smarja scored the winning touchdown. Quinn was great on the final drive. I think he hit David Grimes on the sidelines there too. It was but it was a completely frustrating game for the most part. But you look back on it now, and I think most Notre Dame fans they don't even remember anything else that happened in the game. They only remember the good memories. So, you know what? Go back and maybe tomorrow you're not going to feel good about this game. 5 years from now, you're going to be like, remember that comeback at Duke? Whew, what a beauty.
Tommy Knack asks, can Notre Dame protest the targeting call?
They can. They
will lose.
I doubt they won't. I think they protested every JD Bertrand one and they lost to every one of them.
They will lose.
Yeah.
It's because it's not obviously wrong. So that's why they will lose. All right, we're gonna end it there. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you heard this is your first time, please subscribe to the show, hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you know we're going live. I will be going live tomorrow morning on the Morning After Recap show, which will kick off at 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern time, going over stats and all those things. If you want to talk some more about the game, please attend that. It's a really good time. It's just like everyone wakes up the next day. You want to talk about the team, get your coffee, maybe get a little pastry, right? Nice little sweet thing you could have. We'll talk about the game and all those things. So have a good night, everyone. Notre Dame wins 21-14 to go to 5-1, and they defeat the number 17 Duke Blue Devils. So have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you in the morning. Keep hitting and hustling.